Hey everybody, new year, and what are we all trying to do? I'd imagine we're working on our new resolutions and goals that we've set to become that best version of ourselves. Well, in today's video, I want to show you something that's counterintuitive but highly effective in helping you meet those goals. And it starts with inversion thinking. Basically, inverting how you think about your problems, your goals, your strategies, so that you know what not to do. In short, this is basically saying, if I'm going to fail, if I'm clear about that, I'm definitely not going to go there. Or I'm going to remove those aspects from my life now so that I won't hit them any longer. Basically, you're going to take your foot off the brake so you have more to apply to the gas. So go ahead and smash that like button because it allows YouTube to show this video to more people who want more help with their self-development, meeting their goals, and using new and innovative ways to do it. Let's get started. Now, this concept comes from several sources. One of the most famous ones is probably Charlie Munger of Berkshire Hathaway, Warren Buffett's business partner, and various other people's. But basically, this blog that I really like called Farnham Street has a great article, Inversion and the Power of Avoiding Stupidity. Charlie Munger, the business partner of Warren Buffett and vice chairman of Berkshire Hathaway, is famous for his quote, "All I want to know is where I'm going to die, so I'll never go there." And that thinking was inspired by the German mathematician Carl Gustav Jakob Jacobi, famous for some work on elliptic functions. Now, he said, basically, invert, always invert, because Jacobi knew that it is the nature of things that many hard problems are best solved when they're addressed backwards, Munger counsels. While Jacobi applied inversion mostly to mathematics, the model is one of the most powerful mental models in our toolkit. It is not enough to think about difficult problems one way. You need to think about them forwards and backwards. Inversion often forces you to uncover hidden beliefs about the problem you're trying to solve. Indeed, says Munger, many problems can't be solved forward. Let's look at some examples. Say you want to improve your innovation in your organization. Thinking forward, you'll think about all the things you could do to foster innovation. If you look at the problem by inversion, however, you'd think about all the things you could do that would discourage innovation. Ideally, you would avoid those things. Sounds simple, right? And I bet your organization does some of those quote-unquote stupid things today. Another example, rather than think about what makes a good life, you can think about what prescriptions would ensure misery. So, when it comes to New Year's resolutions, this is a topic. This is the part of the article I wanted to dive in on, which is trying to work out, lose weight, you want to make more money, you want to find a better relationship, you want to move cities, you want to become somebody who communicates and expresses their voice more, you want to start a YouTube channel, whatever the case may be. These are all things that are like forward-thinking, forward-advancing, positive-focused type goals. But if you inverted all those and say, well, how would I become out of shape or continue to be out of shape? How would I not use my voice? How would I make less money or even lose money? All these things, you kind of put them together and say, what are the steps that would precede being somebody who's out of shape, being somebody who's not good with money, being somebody who is not being their best selves to attract the person that they want, or being focused on their productivity and maybe starting a company or getting the new type of job that they want. If you know what these things are that will cause you to fail or trip up, you'll be much more cognizant of when you're doing them to allow yourself to stop doing them. As a high-performance coach, I have these types of discussions all the time with my clients. It's really fascinating when you start to take this inversion look. Taking your foot off the brake, even without adding any more pressure to the gas pedal, is still so helpful. And a lot of times, self-help or motivation, things like that, they talk about ways to, in essence, press the gas pedal. Positive thinking and setting your goals, and those are all awesome, but it doesn't always help you take that foot off the brake. And so you got to do both. A lot of times resolutions say, hey, do this thing to move forward, but they don't really address you being able to take your foot off that brake pedal. And that's what I think this article is helping us do. Let's dive back in. Avoiding stupidity is easier than seeking brilliance. While both thinking forward and thinking backwards result in some action, you can think of them as additive versus subtractive. Despite our best intentions, thinking forward increases the odds that you'll cause harm. Iatrogenics, thinking backwards, call it subtractive avoidance or inversion, is less likely to cause harm. Inverting the problem won't always solve it, but it will help you avoid trouble. You can think of it as this avoiding stupidity filter. It's not sexy, but it's a very easy way to improve. So what does it mean in practice? Spending time thinking about the opposite of what you want doesn't come naturally to most people, and yet many of the smartest people in history have done this naturally. Inversion helps improve understanding of the problem. By forcing you to do the work necessary to have an opinion, you're forced to consider different perspectives. If you were to take anything away from inversion, let it be this: spend less time trying to be brilliant and more time trying to avoid obvious stupidity. The kicker: avoiding stupidity is easier than seeking brilliance. So that's a very simple and elegant framework. Now, if you have more of a business-focused approach, this is a great framework to use. As we can see, again, it was largely popularized by Charlie Munger of Berkshire Hathaway, and he says inverting a problem to find solutions is a concept from Charlie Munger, as we already said, but it's invert, always invert. Turn a situation or a problem upside down. Look at it backwards. What happens if all of our plans go wrong? Where don't we want to go? And how do we get there? Instead of looking for success, make a list of how to fail instead. Through sloth, envy, resentment, self-pity, entitlement, all the mental habits of self-defeat. Avoid these qualities and you will succeed. Tell me where I'm going to die, that is, so I don't go there. His homie, Warren Buffett, had a similar take. Charlie and I have not learned how to solve difficult business problems. What we have learned is to avoid them. You know, in the story, the real life action story of when Navy SEAL Team 6 caught Osama bin Laden, when they went to the compound, they had 2 helicopters. One of them, the tail rotor, hit the wall of the compound, and they had to evacuate it, detonate it on the way out, and then put everybody else on the other evac. But the thing is, they did this in and out like clockwork because they drilled it, because they thought ahead and said what could go wrong, and then planned for those contingencies. So fun. I really like that example. It's such an amazing story. But this article talks more about investing. Really want to show you guys. So Munger says that the best way to achieve success is by avoiding failures. He implies that it's not brilliance that made Berkshire Hathaway succeed. They consistently avoided stupidity. It's easier to avoid failures than to strive for success directly. Looking at problems and scenarios from a different perspective helps us to identify obstacles in a better way. All right, applicability to investing. Take your favorite investment idea and think like this. You're now sitting 10 years into the future. Your favorite investment idea has failed miserably. What has gone wrong? Another way to think about this is, why is this not a good investment? Keep these things in mind. Buy stocks below their intrinsic value. Margin of safety is a cushion for our stupidity. Try to avoid permanent capital loss by speculating on risky investments. Understanding your circle of competence and trying to avoid acting outside of it. Understand what you cannot do. And then it says, while doing a DCF, a discounted cash flow, try to invert and understand market's expectations embedded in the stock price, for example, growth rates. If market expectations are more optimistic than you think is justifiable, avoid the stock. Success in investing is more about avoiding losers than finding winners. So when it comes to investing, when it comes to life, when it comes to business, this is a great framework. Now, a couple of things about this investing. Point 1, buy stocks much below their intrinsic value. That is important. Having a margin of safety allows for you to make mistakes, have more time to correct said mistakes, things like that. Second, trying to avoid permanent capital loss by speculating only in risky investments. Now, this particular statement could be very subjective. Crypto is very risky, but at the same time, there's a lot of opportunity, and the more you understand it, the more opportunity there is for you to make money. And the risk of not participating in these new frontiers, where there are a lot of gains and a lot of losses, but that is the nature of a risky asset, then it's going to be, if you're not a part of it, you eliminate all opportunity to get any upside. And so that's where the education, the planning, understand your circle of competence and try to avoid acting outside of it. Understand what you cannot do. From a high level, yeah, sure, I agree with that. But what I would really add to that is make sure you're expanding your circle of competence. This is where learning, advancing, and getting comfortable with that edge of your circle of competence or comfort zone, and then pushing that out. So you don't want to hop over and do something, make big investments, make huge decisions that are way outside your circle of investment or circle of competence. But at the same time, we have to make decisions in life. And as we progress through life, take on bigger challenges, then that circle of competence either needs to match it or not when that decision comes. And sometimes there is a gap. And so that's why I encourage you guys to educate yourselves, push yourselves to learn more, so that when big decisions come along, big opportunities as well, your circle of competence is much closer to where that decision resides in complexity. Something a little different today, because I wanted to create something that will help you guys in perpetuity. This is something you can come back to on a regular basis to think about how you're going to do your next big thing or make your next big decision. So go ahead, smash that like button. Let me know what you thought in the comments. What big decision or strategy do you think inversion thinking could help you with the most? Consider subscribing, and I thank you so much for watching. See you next time.